Greetings, hello, and welcome to the post-Hurricane Kieran podcast. That is Stan, what number is this? Shout in the background. Producer Stan. Anyway, welcome
7.
to our latest podcast, Sofa Broker, with myself, Solomon Charles Edward Strickland, and Daniel Peter McPeake. Sitting over there. Daniel, how are you?
I'm good. I'm trying to bite the inside of my mouth to stop me talking, just to get me through that intro. But no, I'm good. You? How are you? More importantly, how are you?
I'm pretty good. I'm quite well travelled recently, which I know causes you much mirth. I've had holidays number
18? 19? No. How many holidays does an Etonian take on average?
I don't know. Why don't you go to Eton and do a...
Clearly knows I can't. Okay, we won't talk about your various holidays and disappearance off and failure to even get... Did you get through Eton? Did you make it through the end? Because your mum and dad paid for it, right? You got to it. Did you... What happened? What happens at the end of Eton?
I'd just like to say, this has been hijacked. Thank you, Dan, for bringing this up again.
But do you get a certificate? Say, well done on getting through Eton. Here's a load of A's and B's. Is that what happened?
No, no, not with me. It didn't. What they do actually, when you leave.
What's Eton, the short version, bro?
What they do is they give you a list of very, very influential and powerful people and say, don't bother with the rest of the world because they're not going to get you anywhere in life. Here's a list of people that will help you with life and give you a leg up so that you don't have to work.
And they didn't include you on that list to anybody else.
I didn't get the memo. I think I was down the pub.
And so you fell into real estate, right?
Literally, yeah.
After we've spoke about it, after what you did before in the academy and everything like that. So bit of a crazy week, right? Interest rates, we know where that is. Mm-hmm. If anyone's out there, I think they're at 5.25.
What are your thoughts on that? 2 months in a row staying the same. Do we think turning point, holding pattern for next year?
Look, as with everything like interest rates, I pay no attention to it.
It doesn't actually. It's funny because the world that we're in. Let's look at the worlds that we inhabit, real estate wise. Ultra luxury, probably not. It's just what's available and price and all that kind of stuff. And those guys with all the money. If you've got a Swiss bank account with dollars in it, your interest rates are going to be peanuts anyway. It doesn't make any difference what's going on in the real world. And then obviously with us, with our lofty, cool, alternative kind of stock that we've been doing all these years, what have we done? We're about to complete on a 3-point-something million loft. We've got offers at late ones on a mixed-use, cool warehouse building, and other stuff happening. So I think, again, we talk about tunnel vision, and when you start your own independent brokerage with a brand or without, if you've got that tunnel vision, if you've got a niche, maybe that sees you through. I was talking to a good mate of mine the other day who is very much in that world and hunky-dory,
I think, interest rates, and they do affect, the mums and dads of Britain are affected by them. I've been in this world, I own one of these properties, and you do look at interest rates, but I don't look at it as an agent. I don't, sit there panicking, oh God, what's happening with the industry because of interest rates. Otherwise, there was no point in me ever actually starting to become an agent. You have to be resilient to a certain degree in anything that you're going to do, and you have to be aware of everything. But you can't panic and make decisions based on interest rates. We can't have a situation where, we think they're going to stick at the moment, which me and you kind of think they might. And we think that maybe there's going to be an election. We know they kind of come down a little bit at that point. But it's like getting involved in it too much to be like, what's happening in interest rates? I don't fucking care.
Well, that's a really good point, because I think people who are open to knee-jerk reactions, they're probably not going to make the right decision, are they? Whether it's like, do I actually carry on doing this business? There are probably agents out there right now across the UK, and I dare say the States, who are looking at the interest rates, looking at the market, especially in metropolitan areas where there's a lot of leasehold flats that aren't selling because you've got the added service charge on top of your rates. And we know for a fact that the number of people who are doing valuations or listing appointments are coming back, and people who own houses are saying, well, thanks a lot for letting me know what my house is worth. We're actually going to extend it because we don't think there's much point moving or trying to sell. Yeah. So I think, you could... look at your business and go, Christ, where's the next sale? What's going to happen next? And make a knee-jerk reaction. But, we've been doing this, 25 years, and we're still here doing it. So we've seen all of that stuff. I'm trying to think, what do? We do what you just said. We just don't bother. We plough on. And
no, anyone that's going to get into the industry long term, I don't mean someone that's going to jump in on it for a year or 2 years or 3 years, or someone that's flighty, or someone that thinks they can make £200,000 a week. I don't mean someone that's clearly not taking it sensibly and on board correctly. If someone is panicking about what is going on with it, they're flighty. How can they actually sit down and give the right information to a vendor if they're worried about where the market is? Because I think if you're speaking to a vendor and the vendor clearly would have a need to sell, or a curiosity is developing where they're thinking of selling, you can only deliver the best possible example of that. If you sit down and say, the market is doing X, Y, and Z, you become a little bit then like, it's almost like you're understanding money, and you've got a deeper understanding of anyone else, and where money's going to go and what's going to happen.
That's interesting, because there's a big difference between being a real estate advisor and talking openly about what you would like to do with the property to create a market, etc., and having a roadmap towards where you might get to, and trying all those different things. And I'll talk about that in a minute, actually. And then there's that thing where people think because maybe they got their name above the door, or they've got a reasonably successful business, whatever, that suddenly they have to be a financial guru. And when people go down that road and start telling people who are probably more successful than them, probably in some kind of financial way,
it's the armchair financial idiot that causes the most problems.
Yeah. I've never, and I mentioned just then, I'm working with a couple of sellers at the moment. I'm not that many these days, as you know, but I'm working with a couple of sellers, and we've been through the mill, and we've seen that portals haven't worked. We think we're at the right kind of price. We know there's an issue with leasehold, with service charges, and the affordability around that, even in the sort of £1 million to £2 million mark. I did say to someone the other day, I said, God, it seems to me that people with £2 million don't actually have any money. Yeah. If they're balking at 5, 6, 7 grand service charge, which I know sounds incredibly flippant, and I don't mean it like that, but in London that's quite normal. And so, I'm not going to turn around to them and give them sort of a war and peace about the Bank of England and the financial markets and what happens in New York normally happens in London, and we should just wait. And I'm just talking to them about what I know, and that is we've tried the portals. We will probably withdraw from that. The next thing is, let's get as many brokers as we can into your property and see if we can sell it through our broker network. And after that, we'll try some sort of a media event, around social media, or we'll, go back and do some video. I saw something very interesting on probably Instagram or LinkedIn the other day about buyer or consumer interaction in real estate with video, and how, photos, no matter how good quality they are not, what's the word? They're not attracting the interest, not piquing the interest of people in the same way that videos are.
Well, I mean, that's interesting. We've seen that with a couple of portals. They're trying to do that now. But I think when it comes, to your mums and dads of Britain and agents that are working, in a £0 to £1 million bracket, and there's a concern out there that they are worried about interest rates because they've spoken to a friend down the pub, or their mates told them on the bus, or there's their sister or whatever, and that it's become a thing. They almost talk themselves into a panic and talk themselves into something going on, and that that can freeze the market. Or if they say market, the rates are really low, it's a great time to buy. It speeds everything up. So either way, if you've got to buy or sell a property and you're an agent that's out there and you're dealing with a vendor that has, your best advice is, have you got to sell? Yes, I have. This is the market that we think you're going to be selling in. And it's reasons about that market, not about what's going on in interest rates. And I think we can lead on to that with what's actually happening today and what's happening in, it's November. The market we're experiencing at the moment across the UK is not good.
No.
And you've been talking to lots of people about it out there. I've been speaking to people. I've heard people as well. I've been doing on some Zooms with some guys on the States that want to do some training for us. And we've been talking to over here. They've been saying it's not so good. It's not so great. We're hearing it across some places in Europe, hearing it from Portugal. We can't never come up with a magic hat. We can't pull a rabbit out of a hat all the time and say, this is the problem, we're going to solve it from you. No. And you shouldn't do that as agents. But what you should have is a very wide understanding of what is actually going on. So, let's asking you, what is going on with the market as a general, not taking a snapshot of every month in general, because we've had a pretty tough time since, it went on this time last year with the donuts that managed to fuck everything up. Well done. But would that have happened anyway? And I'm not going to ask you how you see the market, because you never answer it because you're too clever for that. But what is the way through it? How do you,
the opposite. How
do you navigate a market which you said, in your words, I think this is the hardest market we've ever experienced?
Yeah, it is. I think it is. And it's not just me. I speak to people, I know one or two people are quite high up at bigger corporate kind of agents.
Are they the guys that did go to Eton?
They're the probably ones that didn't go to Eton but managed to finish their education in the correct manner.
So what's the other? If you don't go,
they're the ones whose parents like them.
Yeah, okay.
But those guys, I bumped into someone we both know very well, who's he's a lifer, 30 years, been MD of a big company. We just bumped in. He was on the phone. He just literally he went like that with the phone. He was on the phone. He just said, "Worst market in the world, isn't it?" And I'll be with you in a minute. I was like, "Yeah." And we just like sort of not laughed at it because don't want to laugh at it. This is our livelihood, but it's a cyclical thing for people of our generation who have stuck with it. So I think when people like that are saying it, we know that quite a few people are leaving some of the big agents. The media haven't really helped, but we got to. The reality is we're in a perfect storm of economic downturn. Then, of course, the newspapers jump on it as soon as a property doesn't sell, or famously doesn't sell, or something happens and it sells for less money. We're in a recession.
Yeah.
I think it's a perfect storm of crap out there, but it doesn't mean that things don't happen. It doesn't mean that you can't get offers. It doesn't mean that people are all going to say, well, I'm not going to sell, because some people do. And also, you've got to remember, somebody bought something 10, 15 years ago, they're still ahead of the game.
Okay, so Holt, right, that's interesting. We know we can't solve or work out exactly what's going on because we aren't part of, the 1% that's in control of the rest of the world. But, and they're doing what they need to do, right? And that's happening. And we're just caught up in it. And we've been here before, right? Not as bad. We've been here before. The financial crash, was terrible. But what happened after the financial crash?
Massive, incredible market. 2008 was one of the best years I've ever had.
Fantastic.
It was a short, sharp, extraordinary seismic event. I think this time around it's just the way that it's manifested itself has just been more drawn out. And of course that's more painful because there's less happening over a longer period of time.
So we've had people have been hitten over the top with a hammer again and again, and just when they think that they're going to stop getting hit on the head with a hammer, another hammer comes and hits them again, and then someone else has a go, and that's what slowly beaten up.
Yeah.
So they're beat up. They're like they're tired. They're fed up.
The biggest corporates in the world are beaten up, and the smallest independents are beaten up. Some people have got a niche that's seen them through it, and some haven't. Some have pivoted.
Okay, I was
some have given
about
up.
people, not so much the agents. So are the people, the mums and dads, or the buyers and sellers, whatever they are, have they been beaten up by so much stuff that's just gone on outside us talking about just real estate that has, are we depressed?
Cool. Blimey.
Is the nation depressed?
But need to ask the nation that. I genuinely don't know how to answer that. From maybe weather with the storms, hurricanes, everything. Is it this time of year? Are people?
I don't think it's this year because this has been brewing. This has been going on. And when I say are people depressed, I don't mean are we all like, oh my god, the world is over? Because clearly,
is this the most miserable podcast we've ever done?
And not the most, yes, it is not the most miserable. But is this the actuality of the last 2 or 3 years with this market leading up to it, and now there's stuff kicking in that's happening en masse, right? Globally, that's affecting us, and that's getting us down. Things are getting everyone down, so it's leading us into a little bit of a, like you said, a perfect storm. But how do we still trade in this market? Because I promise you something, right? As sure as God made little green apples, this market now, you start in this market, or you've been in this market, or you're lucky enough to have stuck with it, good or bad, 10, 15 years ago. Yep. This is the best learning curve you're ever going to have.
Very true. Okay. And it's also opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about the financial crash, that was an amazing opportunistic moment for a certain type of individual who likes opportunism in the financial markets. You know, whether you think that's a good or a bad thing, you know, it happens, right? And it's the same thing in real estate. And I think whilst you might have to turn around to a client and go, you know what, we've tried everything, we can't sell it. The next time, and then the next week, you know, you might have a developer or a referral come to you. They've been with a big global agent. They've got 150 flats that they want to sell. They've sold 50 and they're stuck. And they're coming to you. And now you have an opportunity to do something.
That's.
So, I mean, it's all cyclical. It's all about being in the room. If you're not in the room, if you give up and you go and pick your nose for 3 weeks and wait until Christmas and then say, I'll try and make some money in February, you won't be on the end of that email or that Instagram message that says, I've seen your brand, I've seen you, I've seen your history, great marketing, whatever it might be that draws them to you. I've tried with these guys, we've reached the end of our agreement, and it's time for me to change. Would you be interested in talking?
So is it fair to say then what's going on at the moment is we know the market's tough, and we know now that this is the best time to learn to get into real estate because it's so hard to actually make it. So if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, right? For the next couple of years that are in front of us. But is it because now brand is no longer important when it comes to marketing? Is it because the individuals that are speaking, that are talking to you and that you can relate to, you come together with them people and them groups quicker and therefore do business with them? Is it Coca-Cola's dead, right? And the world is open for lots of Coca-Colas to pop up again, like lots of coffee shops, you know, coming up with their artisan coffee.
Is this the rebirth of the soda stream?
Mate, my sister just bought a soda stream. I mean, we got Frank a soda stream. You know, it is that kind of thing, right? It's like, because you see other brands and everyone's popping up and doing stuff, and sometimes it doesn't give a fuck what their brand's in front of.
Answer your question very quickly. Yes, what you just said is absolutely true. And I look at something that's happening in real time with us at the moment, and someone came to us from quite a large brand and said, I remember you guys doing something really interesting for us a couple of years ago, and I remember the name of the guy who did it. It wasn't so much the brand, but they did a bit of research, found out who that guy was, and then remembered the brand and then came to us. And I think that's really interesting. The fact that they then ended up with a particular brand is obviously fantastic, and we'll explain to them how that will how that.
So it's time to be local.
Yeah, but what's interesting about, and that, you know, we're talking about how the agency's become hybrid or it's become independent with a partner, and all the things that's happening in the big shake-up that's happening in this industry. And I think what's interesting with this particular brand and why they came to our brand and how they got to us is that they're looking for something a little bit more individual.
Yeah.
And what have we got in our particular model? I'm not saying we're the best brand in the world because I'm not here to do that, but the model enables a collection of really interesting individuals, to then represent what they've got and give it an alternative. So it's not just a grey, besuited corporate marketing thing. It's a loads of people. One or two of them might be a bit grey and a bit suited. That's fine if that's what their USP is. And some of them might be young, crazy, and bonkers and do things in different ways.
So if the agents are out there that are trying to get into this or getting into this, and they're on their own, and they're finding it tough because it is tough, but they're finding themselves, they're going to stick at it, right? They've got some cash, which is the most important thing, right? So they have the ability to stick it, because if you haven't got the cash in this market, think twice about actually, stopping doing it.
You've got to survive till, if you want to get to this market, you've got to survive till spring.
Yeah, you got to have money from beyond that. You've really got to think long term to make it happen, I think. But is it time that now's a really good opportunity to batten down the hatches, but become the best once the hatches are down? So why it's down that? So if you're on a street that you live on, and around you, there's 5 or 6 streets nearby, now is the chance to go and knock on everyone's door, whether they're buying or selling, or you just want to say hi, and let them know what you're doing, whether they're interested in buying or not, whether they're interested in selling or not, doesn't matter. It's a time to get your voice out. If you can button down and get to the market that is, 12 or 13 streets around your front door, and you've spoken to everyone individually, regardless of whether or not they want to sell, and told them about you, I think this is the best chance you've got of making this a personalised market.
I agree.
And that's how you manage to do deals while the hatches are still down. Because once they come open, it'll be like a sub that comes up to the surface, and it'll become great. And then you can then go, it will go huge. So, that's kind of what I would want to hear and see, the younger guys and girls out there doing this. It's really driving with it.
Or even anyone who's been in, should we say, a estate agency, the salary type, and they're thinking, God, this is tough, and now it's boring. I'm not actually enjoying myself because I'm not doing as much business. When you're busy and you're flying around, it doesn't really matter what you're, how you get paid and what you do. You're fun. It's fun. You're busy. Everyone likes being busy, right? Well, I hope they do. But these guys who are actually in the industry, who are looking at the other way and thinking, actually, I've been in this area for so long, but it's only been to the benefit of the guy that owns the business above me.
Yeah,
they're the ones who I think should look at that. Get your completions done. Get your money in, or whatever it is. Go and borrow, beg, steal, whatever it is, the expression from parents or whoever will listen to you. Get yourself a war chest, and then get yourself back into the community. Yeah, maybe alongside an Seekers type brand, or whoever it is you want to do, or do it yourself, whatever. Get yourself back into the community that you've been serving at on a bit of a salary type situation, and get yourself ready for next year, because property always sells. It will sell, and it's just a question of who it's going to sell with. So you might as well make it, give yourself as good a chance as any as being the person who sells. And of course, if less property is selling, and I think this is crucial, if less property is selling across the board, and you need to put more effort into finding that one buyer when maybe there were 10 or 20 before, depending on where you are, you might as well make as much money per transaction. So if you're only making 10% of a 1% fee or whatever it might be on the high street, typically these days, that's not hugely exciting. But if you can go and get a really great listing in your chosen area, where you are known in the coffee shops, etc., that one sale might bring you in 20, 30, 40, 50,000, and then you can go again.
So it is, we've come a little bit circle when we was talking about, getting rid of Coca-Cola. Have we turned into a coffee cup agency? Is that the best way to get new business now? Is it sitting around coffee shops, speaking to people, being uber involved in what's going on locally, but having a global eye on everything else? Is that how we're going to make it through and sell? Because when we was talking about, is the nation depressed? Is it or isn't it? We don't know. It's not great, but people like good news, but they don't like bullshit.
Yeah,
it's no good you saying sold in my road, all this stuff that's going on. They don't give a fuck if something's sold in the road. They want to know what they're selling.
Yeah,
it's about. So we need to bring the mindset back to who's sitting in the place. So if we're lucky enough to get on a valuation and we're sitting there, before we start spewing everything out about for how wonderful we are, we need to understand the mindset of the people in front of us, and let's alter that mindset, make it more malleable. I managed to say that.
You did well done.
Yeah, thank you. I didn't even go to Eton. Make it more malleable, and then engage the brains. And is that how we can do that? Is that how we can use 20 or 30% of what we've got to get through the next 12 months that are in front of us?
Yeah, I think, all the way through while you're talking, I was thinking, actually, what is it? I think it's brutal to say it, but I think you've got to have money. That is true.
Yeah.
Right. And it's really unfair, but that's just the way the world may be. And real estate's not all that fair anyway, is it?
No.
And I think this is going to sound incredibly obvious, but you've got to be good. You know, the good people in any industry tend to survive, you know, the nuclear explosions, and you've just got to be good and stay on it. And I think you've really got to want to do it. So if you're a bit of a, you know, I'm doing this for a laugh.
If you're a Bitcoin wannabe millionaire, it's no good saying, "Oh, I'm into Bitcoin and also I sell real estate."
Go do
You're a
something
joke.
else and come back middle of next year, because it's going to be hard for you, really hard for you.
Yeah. So treat it like what it is. But it is, you know, we are coming into the hardest market, which is the best way to learn. Because what can happen now, you know, you're going to cut your teeth literally under fire. You know, you'll find out, you'll know. I mean, and we're still honing our skills from them. I mean, the one thing I would suggest that anyone does that, you know, is going to get into this when we talk about getting into the mindset of the vendors before we start shouting about how great we are, is also learn to fucking listen.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? One of the things we can teach everybody here now, you know, while I'm speaking to you, I mean, you just did it when I was talking to you. You said while you was talking, I was thinking about. You know, we let our minds drift off because we speak.
So I wasn't listening to you.
we speak a lot
What's your
quicker
name?
than we think, you know, and we're able to do that. So we need to, you know, one of the tips I can give you, and Solly agrees, is we need to let everyone listen and hear what we've just said. Let it come back, you know. So if you have said something and this is really powerful when you're on valuations, you know, not only have you listened, you've heard. So you go back and, you know, the vendor said something and you go, I understand that. I've heard what you've said and I fully appreciate we do need to do insert X here.
Yeah.
Okay, so they can hear you saying it back. Because there's so much noise at the moment. There's so much space going in every direction. There's so many people talking about so much. It's so the world is now noisier than it has ever been. You know, I do unfortunately remember when we didn't have mobile phones. You know, and you know, we didn't have social media when I was at school, and the world was a lot simpler. And I thought it was crazy busy then. So now it's like, you know, for my kids and that growing up, it's like, Jesus, you know, we're in a world that's so chaotic. One thing we can do that does work, that you should listen to and will make you money, is not only listen, but hear people and let them know you've heard them.
So on that note, I've got something going on in real time, and I think this is a really hard question to answer.
Let me do my thinking face.
So Daniel, experienced real estate
Oh, and
agent.
if you're going to do a proper thinking face,
Yeah.
can you lift up your...
Skirt.
No, not your skirt, your pillow.
Why?
Pillow, just lift it up, the one at the bottom. No, the other one. Yeah, it's there. Can you grab that? There. That's, if you turn it around, and if you open
What am I doing?
if you open that, so, and then if you can put it on.
Stop it. Okay.
Okay, if you can do it now. Oh God, all of a sudden I'm taking you mega seriously.
So Daniel.
Yes, sir.
If you could just quickly kiss the royal ring. Oops, sorry, that's a bit wrong. Anyway.
And I did it.
Anyway, I've got a question for you. What do you do right now as someone's selling agent, yeah, when they are not sold, okay, and you're thinking, Christ, where's the buyer going to come from? What would you do if they sent you a message going, we found a place that we really want to buy
That's perfect.
in this market?
That's perfect. And you're the selling agent.
I'm the, yeah.
And you haven't sold it
we
yet.
haven't sold it, and they found something they want to buy.
The first thing I would do is go, great, let me connect you, or connect me with the agent that's buying it. I'd get through to that agent that's buying it, and for argument's sake, they're paying £500,000 for it. Mm-hmm. I'd phone the agent, I would go, look, you know that I've shown Mr. and Mrs. Y around, or Mr. Y, or Mrs. and Mrs. Y, and they really do love the property that you're marketing, okay? I think they may have even spoke to you, you know, they're interested, they want to make an offer. They're not sold in their current market, and we're not sold in this current market, and they've got it on the market at 400,000. What I need you to do to make this happen, okay, because the kind of market we're in, is can you get me £30,000 off of the asking price. And it's not to give that 30,000 away from the people that are buying this property. It's so I can go back to them people and say, I can now reduce your property by 400,000 to 375. Maybe you can take a couple off that and get it down to 350. Now we look cheaper than anyone else that has got this market. Now we can make the deal happen. Now everybody can close it.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. But how about the fact that there's no one looking at their property, no one offering on their property? And we're probably
there's no one looking and offering, because you're on 400,000 to get them to drop 350 is a major ask.
Yeah.
Okay, and never happen. But if you got them to drop 350,
you're unlocking
because you're unlocking a whole new market. And I think a fire sale, and we know what happens with a fire sale, it means it moves quick. That means you can speed up something else that no one talks about, which is conveyancing. So then you can say to the agent that's working for it, for the buyers, and say to them, look, because they're going to reduce, we're going to be able to make this property sell quicker. So there's going to be two people involved, two different sets of estate agents, two different sets of conveyancers. Because it's going to happen so quick, we will speed this market up. It's not going to be 6 months before this is happening. If it's November, I guarantee we're going to be in by Christmas. And that's the benefit of allowing people to free up funds. And you spoke about it when we spoke about the market and what's going on, and it's crazy. And you said 10, 15 years ago, it wouldn't matter what they're on at. Someone spending 500k and can drop it 30 grand, who's been living in it in 10 years, 12 years, 5 years, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, of course.
They've made triple that amount of money anyway. And on that note, I'd love to thank you all for paying attention and listening to us again. I know Solly wants to say hi. You know, the world isn't that bad. It's not going to end up being terrible for everyone. Watch us on Spotify, Apple, Amazon, YouTube. Stay true, stay real, stay loose.